Aesop's Fable EP110, the ant who experimented with light and plant growth. Scene 1, The Curious Ant's Question. In a bustling anthill nestled in a meadow, there lived a curious ant named Andy. Andy was fascinated by the plants and flowers that grew all around the meadow. One day, while watching the flowers sway in the breeze, Andy began to wonder what makes these plants grow so tall and strong. Does the sunlight have something to do with it? Andy decided to conduct an experiment to find out. He wanted to see how plants would grow if they received different amounts of sunlight. With excitement, he gathered some seeds and set off to find the perfect spots for his experiment. Scene 2, Setting up the experiment. Andy chose 2 different locations for planting his seeds. The first spot was in a sunny part of the meadow, where the plants would receive plenty of sunlight throughout the day. The second spot was in the shade, under a large tree, where the plants would get only a little bit of sunlight. He carefully planted the same type of seeds in both locations, making sure to water them equally. Andy marked each spot with small stones so he could easily find them again. Now, I just have to wait and see what happens, Andy thought as he finished his work. Every day, Andy visited both spots to observe the growth of the plants. He was eager to see if there would be any differences in how the plants grew depending on the amount of sunlight they received. Scene 3, Observing the growth. After a week, Andy began to notice changes in the plants. The seeds in the sunny spot had sprouted and were growing taller each day. Their leaves were a vibrant green, and they seemed to be reaching up toward the sky, soaking in the sunlight. In contrast, the seeds planted in the shade were growing much more slowly. The plants were smaller, and their leaves were pale and thin. Andy realized that the plants in the shade were not as strong or healthy as the ones in the sunlight. Andy kept a journal of his observations. Sunny spot, tall, strong plants with green leaves. Shady spot, small, weak plants with pale leaves. As the days passed, the difference between the 2 groups of plants became even more noticeable. The plants in the sunlight continued to thrive, while the ones in the shade struggled to grow. Scene 4, Understanding the results. Andy was excited by what he had learned. He went back to the anthill and shared his findings with the other ants. The plants that were in the sunlight grew much better than the ones in the shade, Andy explained. It seems that sunlight is really important for helping plants grow strong and healthy. The other ants were impressed by Andy's experiment. They had never thought about how much the sunlight affected the plants around them. Andy's discovery helped them understand why some plants grew tall and strong while others didn't do as well. Andy realized that he had discovered an important scientific principle: plants need sunlight to grow. Without enough light, they can't produce the energy they need to thrive. Moral of the story: observing and experimenting with nature helps us learn important lessons about the world. By understanding how sunlight affects plant growth, we can better appreciate the needs of living things.